So it is Sunday, the 4th of June. I am in front of the so-called Unitarian Church of Montreal, engaged in my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy, which include, but by no means limited to, Unitarian Universalists misusing Canada's blasphemy law in legal bullying intended to conceal and maybe even deny such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, to say nothing of certain Unitarian Universalist did I say Sunday school teachers? Certain Unitarian Universalist lay people like Richard Buell of First Parish Norwell. So yeah, some ministers, some Sunday school teachers, also known as religious educators, and the occasional lay leader, someone like Richard Buell of First Parish Norwell, who was charged, tried, and convicted of raping preteen girls who were no older than 12 years old at the times that the rapes took place, and could have been as young as 6 years old according to some estimates. So yeah, pedophile rapist in my books. So yeah, he was charged and tried and convicted and sentenced to a jail term in the Massachusetts Correctional Institute. And good day, sir. And I blogged about that. Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell luring teenage Tibetan refugees. It's the truth, I'm afraid.
I know you're right. You think you can do in crazy Tibet and come over, yeah.
Well, the people who are accusing me of blasphemy, they're actually American Unitarians. From Boston. I don't know, maybe Boston's got stuff in the water too, but oh, I think I've spoken with you before. I remember you, yeah.
I know everybody
Yeah, no, I remember speaking with you some years ago, yeah. You too, yeah. So yeah, this woman, she's giving like this scrunched up face look at my picket signs, which is often a sign of disapproval. It's often because the person doesn't believe what's on the sign or doesn't like what's on the sign. Well, she doesn't like what's on the sign, but she doesn't disbelieve it. In other words, she thinks it's pretty sickening, that Unitarian Universalists misuse blasphemy law to cover up and hide pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers and Unitarian Universalist lay leaders. And in fact, I distinctly remember speaking with the very same woman some years ago, and she was very much on side with all the issues. She totally agreed with what I was saying, that she agreed that it was true and something should be done about it. So when she expressed disgust at my picket signs, it was disgust at Unitarian Universalists, not that I'm protesting what the disgusting things certain Unitarian Universalists do, and which unfortunately pretty well the whole Unitarian Universalist religious community prefers to cover up and hide and pretend didn't happen than deal responsibly with. Now, it's true that
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Ian, how's it going? Yeah, it's my Sunday practice. It's my spiritual practice. So a guy I know from years ago rides by on his bike, recognizes me, and a little bit of a shit disturber himself. I remember him. Good guy, basically. I think good sense of right and wrong. So I think he probably knew immediately that I'm standing outside church with picket signs. I got some pretty good reasons to do so. So yeah, I remember him. I might even mention that on my Facebook account, so good to see a familiar face from Lachine. So, looks like getting a little scuffed here, but here's the other slogan down the other end here. Unitarians misuse Canada's blasphemous libel law to hide UU pedophilia and rape. Totally truthful statement. Unitarians, specifically top-level leaders of the Unitarian Universalist Association, specifically UUA President, Reverend Dr. Peter Beyond Belief Morales, and former UUA Executive Vice President, yes, putting the accent on vice there, Kathleen K. Montgomery, amongst other top-level UUA leaders who are atheists, thought it'd be a really good idea to hire Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, a litigation lawyer, Maître Marc-André Coulombe, to have me served with an arrogant and aggressive cease and desist demand letter, which falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for allegedly making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the Unitarian Universalist Association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Well, of course, the key word in that legal bullshit is unfounded. And unfortunately for Maître Marc-André Coulombe and Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors as a law firm, and the Unitarian Universalist Association, and by extension the Unitarian Universalist religious community as a whole, my allegations about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and pedophile rapist Richard Buell were by no means unfounded. And therefore, the pretext for falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel was, well, false. But what's interesting is, even if it had been true, even if I had actually made false allegations about Unitarian Universalist ministers being pedophiles and or rapists, this would not actually constitute the crime of blasphemous libel. It might constitute ordinary civil libel, but it would not constitute the criminal act of blasphemous libel. And as I like to point out to Stikeman Elliott, Barristers and Solicitors defamation lawyer, Maître Marc-André Coulombe, and the UUA, the only circumstance under which I could actually be guilty of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for speaking in critical terms of Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists is if such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape were and are held to be sacred and holy to the Unitarian Universalist religious community. So that's one of the delicious ironies in this false blasphemous libel accusation, is that in falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel, Maître Marc-André Coulombe and his clients rather foolishly, in fact I think I could say stunningly foolishly, suggested that Unitarian Universalists hold such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape to be sacred and holy to Unitarian Universalism. I think that's hilarious. So we got some people showing up here, and see what that's all about. A couple of people pulling up on bikes. A guy and a young girl. Whoops, he almost tripped. So yeah, we're going to just continue our protest here because it's going a bit longer today than usual. I'm essentially waiting for people to exit the Unitarian Church of Montreal. There's some reasons why I want people exiting the church to see this protest today. I don't always do this. It's usually just a protest, you know, when people are entering, and then I go and do other things. But today, as I said, for some pretty good reasons, I think something interesting might happen when people exit. So I want to be around and see what happens. So anyhow, and yeah, we got some late arrivals here. Man and a young girl just pulled up on bikes. So had some pretty good interactions today with the public, and also had a nice little interaction with David Rollard, you know, basically having a little chat with him while he was busy trying to hide the truth by erasing my chalk slogans. So I basically confronted him about that while he was trying to hide the truth. And he basically made a bigger fool of himself than usual. I mean, he always makes a fool of himself when he engages in erasing my slogans or otherwise trying to pretend nothing's wrong, trying to pretend that this protest has no validity. You know, he's in deep, deep, deep psychological denial. He's wallowing in willful ignorance. He likes to smirk and smile in response to my protest, you know, pretend that it's of no validity whatsoever. And on top of that, he tries to hide the truth by erasing my chalk slogan. So this guy's very, very deeply implicated in Unitarian Universalist cover-up and denial of clergy abuse, which includes but is not limited to such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. And I do like to quote that rather vague term from Maitre Marc-André Coulombe's demand letters in a follow-up demand letter that he wrote, I believe, 5 years ago today. I think it was dated June 4th of 2012. You know, in my initial response to his accusations, not just the blasphemous libel accusation, but also a couple of other silly accusations that he made, was to write back to him and tell him, well, you know, you have not clearly identified exactly which blog posts you're talking about here, and so I don't know exactly which blog posts you're talking about, and I cannot find any blog posts that match your description of unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, so please provide me with URLs, that is internet addresses, or titles, or dates, or something that clearly identifies exactly which blog posts you're talking about, so I can go and, you know, read them and decide what to do, because he was telling me that they were, you know, blasphemous libel and sexual harassment, and that I had to take them down, or face being charged with blasphemous libel or sexual harassment, or both. So as far as I was concerned, there was nothing that could be properly described as sexual harassment. There was certainly nothing that could be properly described as blasphemous libel. My blog posts about Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists were based on newspaper reports about Unitarian Universalists who'd been charged, tried, and convicted of pedophilia and or rape, and therefore they were by no means unfounded, not in the least. So he arrogantly wrote back, as I said, 5 years ago today, or maybe tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it was the 4th. It was the 4th or the 5th. And he said, you know, your claims not to be able to find the offending material are not credible, blah, blah, blah. Got a guy reading the picket signs. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it's true. It's truly a unique honor and privilege to be accused of blasphemy in the 21st century by atheists. This guy's having a good look at the picket signs. So yeah, we have some people coming out here. What do we got? Okay. So yeah, I was expecting people to start exiting about now, and so decided to stick around and continue the protest. Oh, this young lady was watching as David Rollert was erasing my chalk slogan, which I replaced, by the way. I mean, the chalk slogan that David Rollert erased is right here, not much left of it. So I basically rewrote it, or something very similar. Unitarians misuse blasphemy law to hide pedophilia. I could throw rape in there as well, but I basically ran out of sidewalk space in terms of that. I mean, I could have kept going on the other side, but I try to keep a slogan within a a square as much as possible. And you know, it's good enough. I mean, it don't necessarily need to add rape. Pedophilia is bad enough. In some ways, some people would consider pedophilia to be an even more despicable crime than rape in some ways. It is, after all, sex abuse of, you know, very vulnerable people known as children. So anyhow, yeah, one of the big ironies of this whole thing is Sue Montgomery, the Gazette's former justice reporter, is a member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. She's been a member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal for quite some time now. I don't know when she first joined, but I'd say she's been a member for at least a decade, if not somewhat longer, and possibly as much as 20 years. I really don't know exactly when she first joined. And she, you know, has set herself up as the spokesperson for victims of rape, to say nothing of pedophilia. She set herself up as the great champion of victims of rape. She did this in the latter part of 2014. Well, interesting thing is, since at least December of 2012, she's been aware of the Unitarian Universalist Association's misuse of blasphemy law to hide pedophilia and rape, and you know, she never, you know, she could have set herself up as a champion of rape victims in 2012, but didn't. And she basically totally ignores the slogans and the picket signs and all the other information about her religious community being extremely hypocritical in misusing Canada's blasphemy law in legal bullying intended to hide pedophilia and rape. So yeah, we got the various people exiting the church, and I did want them to see the picket signs today. It is, after all, the